This program is designed to provide general information with regards to the subject matters covered. This information is given with the understanding that neither the hosts, guests, sponsors, or station are engaged in rendering any specific and personal, medical, financial, legal, counseling, professional service, or any advice. You should seek the services of competent professionals before applying or trying any suggested ideas.
Good morning, true seekers and true crime junkies. Welcome back to another episode of Hit the Road Jack, Finding the Zodiac. We are going to climb back immediately into the D.B. Cooper case. We are covering some of the consistencies and coincidences and the comparisons to the letters that were written in this case. I'd like to first start by welcoming Terry Batcher to the show.
Hello, hello, hello.
Hello. Good morning. From the side.
Who said that? Who said that?
Said what?
Somebody said, ew.
Ew?
Yeah, I just said it. I know you didn't. I don't know where it came from.
You have gnomes in your earbuds.
Something's going on there.
At least that I know of.
So no Harriet yet? And we're going to talk about her stuff?
We'll continue on, and if we have to bring her back to explain it at a later point, I'm hoping that she will be with us here shortly. Anyways, I'd like to go ahead and put up that PowerPoint presentation, and we're just going to climb right back in where we left off, which the last time we were talking about the B in D.B. Cooper on the solve from the Playboy cutouts, and the B being linked to the name Ben Masselink. I instinctively think that anything he's pointing out, there's a purpose for it. Clearly, he could have gotten a B from any point, from anywhere inside that Playboy map. In fact, he could have used the B in Playboy, right?
Right. The Masselink was a big a guy that produced and
right. I haven't gotten there. Hold on, we haven't gotten there yet. I'm gonna bring you in because this is definitely dedicated to you. So my impression when I saw this was that there was this, along with the Magnavox ad, was screaming kind of TV for some reason. And I'd written down long ago, long before now, and before what you sent me, that Jack has extensive knowledge of electronics, but maybe this is leaning towards the syndicate and its involvement with TV, movies, news, or newspapers. So you then sent me this last week a link to a Benjamin Masselink. 1919 to 2000. So he evidently is already passed, correct?
Yes. And
you were saying he's known for?
At least 4 primary television shows. I can read the fine. I think one of them was Barnaby Jones. And
yes.
I can't read
Incredible
that.
Hulk. The Incredible Hulk, Starsky and Hutch.
At least 4.
And
he was a writer and a producer, I believe.
And married to somebody, Drew Murphy?
Looks like it.
Is that what that says?
He wasn't young either. I mean, he was born in 1919, so, you know. Right.
Very, very well alive and kicking all the way through World War II and many other things. So
he had so Jack had
and Starsky and Hutch is kind of like the cops and robbers, right? Barnaby Jones, again, a police flick. What was it? We know the Incredible Hulk obviously was more of a comic style.
Right. Most of that stuff was from the 70s or late 60s, early 70s. So yeah, it would have been correct for the period too.
Right. Right.
Yeah, and he, like you say, he picked 1B. Why did he pick that one? Well,
yeah, it's very suspect, and it's leading us back definitely to the syndicate, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, me too.
All right, so on the next slide, he actually used the COO and ER in Cooper from maybe you're taking a little too much of a chance on love. Now, this one confuses me entirely. So if there was some meaning, love was not what we see being expressed.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe you're taking too much of a chance on love. Maybe he never took a chance on love. On anything, right? So, Yeah, it would fit him. It's more Zodiac Jack 101 for sure.
Well, and he says in here, and I don't know why it's on the slide, but it says very few people knew the initial B and Ben, needed a name to it. Why wasn't a name given to the initial D? Is that another taunt? No, I think that literally it's pointing towards this particular individual, towards the TV, maybe even the makers of it. Who knows, really? But it says note appears to be a referral back to the AD or the ad about each letter means something you give with love. This is the last of the cutout letters, and it appears the author is jokingly saying maybe he gave away too much information from the ads and articles.
It's got a great size to it compared to the D also, which I think is
right.
important. Right.
Because D was never correct, obviously. I do find it.
Go ahead.
I do find it interesting that he was literally picking himself apart throughout these articles. So yes, he's giving us some hints, albeit this one, I'm not exactly sure what that hint would be other than what you just said, or maybe what this guy has assumed at this point was that he just gave away too much information. However, it did not actually lead to any type of a solve, and it didn't tell them who the person was by any means, just more or less what the person was about. Also gave the public the strict knowledge that he was in a disguise, which kind of makes sense on Bruce Smith's DB Cooper episode, where the CIA agent said her entire job was to make you look completely different than you actually do in real person. And it could be putty makeup, it could be wigs, it could be regular makeup, like changing the eye color, changing the hair color, doing all of these things that would substantially make you look different during the crime itself. And we did see that these letters started rolling in immediately after the crime, giving the FBI, law enforcement, and the newspapers the information they needed to know that he was the actual culprit, just like in the Zodiac stuff.
And that'll come up with the next group of documents we'll look at next after this, and we're done with some of this, which we were talking about earlier, because that was one of the things I pointed out about his actual identity, that the stewardess was not happy with what the FBI came up with for the composite, the Bing Crosby look.
Okay. Harriet is actually, sorry, I'm going to cut you off, but I'll let you back at it. Harriet is going to be calling in right now. Okay, so sorry, go ahead and finish that off. I did not mean that. I was just answering her. That's
right. Just going to say that the stewardess and some of the other people, I think Radicek, I think, was one of them complaining about that the FBI was playing games, or however, I'm paraphrasing, but he was upset that the composite didn't match the actual perp whatsoever.
Correct.
So we'll see more of that.
Absolutely. I'm under the impression that Harriet believes that all the individuals that took part in this particular crime were actually part of it. I think that's what her solves are coming out to say.
That they were in on it somehow, or somehow inside.
Yes. Involved. She believes that Tina Mucklow went to voicemail. All right. Juan, Harriet is trying to call in. She says it went to voicemail.
What you just said would not surprise me, that you would find that.
Sorry about that. All right, so let's get on to the next one, and she should be with you momentarily. Now, he said that was the last of the cutouts, which doesn't make any sense. This is the last of the cutout letters, and that's not true, because we're going to go on to the P in Cooper, which came from pipe tobacco. So basically, the suspect then cut off aspects of that P for some reason. Like, why not use the entire P? He was all about fanciful letters.
Well, then the word lazy pipe tobacco too. Let's not forget. So.
Right, lazy P, lazy police, lazy.
Well, I was thinking it would imply something like the opium trade. In other words, that opium makes people lazy. They end up in opium dens, and so that's what I take. That's my takeaway would be lazy pipe tobacco. Really, was it reefer madness, or is it what is it? Why did he have
reefer madness? I'm sorry.
Oh, there we go. Good morning, Harriet.
Yeah. I have an emergency situation here, but I'll just do the show. The show must go on. But anyways,
I'm trying
yeah,
to
so
even look at the article sideways on here that says the Playboy Advisor, and it has some paragraphs in it, and the first initial is bold, or the first letter of each word is bolded in the paragraph, and it says MIPISGW. So maybe we'll sit down and try and see what it is that he's actually pointing out. So while he used the P, it doesn't necessarily mean that he's referring to a pipe, unless he was talking about a pipe bomb. What kind of bomb did he say he had in the briefcase?
Sticks of dynamite.
That would be Terry B's Terry B's field, definitely.
Well, they said red sticks of dynamite, but the dynamite was never red. It was kind of a pale yellow and mauve, or not mauve, pardon me, a tan in color. So it was fake. Cartoon bombs and stuff and dynamite was always red. But so in other words, it was right there. He's making a joke because he's presenting red dynamite, which would be, red sticks of dynamite. Well, they were fake. And that's why I think he took it in the bathroom and burned it up. It was nothing but an empty paper tube.
Ah,
Yeah.
I mean?
Did they
Plus, he
mention
never
that?
get caught with a bomb if he actually got caught. But
Right.
no,
Did they
so-
mention that he burnt something in the bathroom?
Well, they thought maybe he did, and they didn't know what happened. They asked him if he'd take the dynamite with the bomb with him, and he said he would. But I mean, he's presenting a bomb that's fake because it's got red sticks of dynamite, and it's only like in Roadrunner and Coyote cartoons where you're going to see dynamite represented as a red stick explosive. The stuff is not packaged that way. It's packaged, in a light, different sort of a color. It has been for decades, So that right away was he was playing little tricks on them too.
What, isn't flares red?
Road flares would be red, but why carry one of those? Unless you what I'm saying, you could hollow one out, but all you need is a tube, and you make your own fake looking. You could same thing with the battery. Wouldn't have to have any weight either. It could be just the sleeve off the battery, and so it just.
Did he take his briefcase with him, or did he leave that behind?
I think he did take the briefcase. I think the only thing he left behind was the clip-on tie.
Gotcha.
I may be wrong about that.
And Harriet used to.
It's been 9 years, so I studied
right.
The clip-on
and
tie,
Harriet, you had indicated that there was a fishing line that was able to pull up the hidden compartment in this particular briefcase, correct?
Yeah, when I got in by decoding it, I was like, wow. And that hidden compartment, just like you said, it's like an empty canister, whatever. He had a really seriously thick fishing line for like whaling, something like that. This 600-pound fishes or whatever they got to do. That jumped out, and there was a way to just do something with that fishing line, or maybe it snapped as the plane was landing. And of course, just reel it in when you're done. So that's what but he said something about there was a fishing line there that he jumped out with that fish on that fishing line. And, of course he got injured, and there's more because I did the Donna last letter, and there's.
What do you mean he jumped out on the fishing line?
Yeah, that he was. It was almost like with inertia and physics and all that. When he's jumping out, the weight of him jumping out as it was landing. There was a fishing line is done a certain way, and he was able to, hold on to that fishing line, and then he gets banged up with whatever he jumped out with. And the fishing line, I would think, would have snapped, because if it was, 1,000 feet fishing line, I had to look it up because I was doing this and I had to try to make some sense. But they have some big, hundreds of feet fishing lines. So, they were just, I think, trying to plan how to land and where to go and how he was going to jump out. And then you had the hundreds of feet types of fishing line. And it must have snapped at some point, and then either reel it in or just let it get decayed over being outside for a year or so. I don't know.
You're taking a big chance, don't you, on that jump, the biggest, and explains why Nanette, you had said he had been injured at that point in time.
Well, yes.
On those type of parachutes, any parachutes, there's rings on them and you have to know when to pull up on those rings when you're close to the ground. So it's something you're trained for. If you don't do that, you're going to do a hard crash. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? You're going to come
Yeah.
down really hard. So that's the
You
one
do
thing
see
you wouldn't
that.
have been able to do, because he jumped out on a moonless night, and getting an exact reading on where the ground was might have been really tough for him, because that's what just within a handful of feet to the ground where you got to pull up on those rings, and that slows your descent suddenly. But you can only do that once. You know, you do that too early and you're in trouble. You don't do it too late, you're in trouble. So that
Right.
explains
Yeah,
what you were saying. He got injured.
Well, and if,
Well,
as
let's
Harriet is talking about infrared and things of that nature being already available to the military and such at that time, he very well could have had some apparatus that allowed him to see in the dark.
Well, then there's a magic amulet thing that we've never talked about. Does that come up on any of your solves, Harriet, with the magic amulet that's on one of the pre-D.B. Cooper?
It's the documents. Yeah, the
Zodiac
October,
document.
November. Yeah.
Right.
There's just some. There was ways for him to zero in. Literally, I'm seeing he uses the 0 as a place for location. So that would mean, just like what you're saying, the location should be here, location there, something very similar. So yeah, I am seeing it, but in a different way. He's using a million zeros sometimes. It means 0 for location, and the zip code, and the mountain, and so on. But what I wanted to say really quick, they had the plane flying at 4,000 feet, correct? And at a low, barely, hinges barely going to keep at 5,000 feet, where he's about to land is 4,000 feet where those mountains are. And that's where he says that he jumped out where those mountains are. So you got, as you're landing, you're getting even closer to 4,000 feet. And then you got this hundreds of feet fishing line. And he hit, even then it said that that's where he got injured, was up in the mountains right in behind the airport. So
you think he jumped closer to Reno?
Oh yeah, he was going through Reno as the airport was landing, and the plane was supposed to be at 5,000 feet only, and then it's going over the 4,000 feet mountain, and then it's getting lower and lower and lower. And that's where he jumped out.
That's what your solve says. He jumped near Reno.
Oh yeah, he jumped at the Reno airport as it was landing. He jumped out the aft, and with the fishing line that was in a hidden compartment.
But they know for sure that he jumped out though in the center, because a pilot could tell, because he was sitting out. They knew when he climbed out on the end of the stairs, because they could tell with the weight on the end of the stairs, it definitely affected the flight of the plane, because it's acting as an airfoil. He's got leverage out there. And then they could tell when he jumped off, because the rear stairs, the air pressure pushed it back up. So that way they were able. What you're getting that is from a solve. In other words, he's saying so. So one could almost assume that he's lying in the solve. In other words, which is something I've always wondered. Well, when is he telling the truth? When is he lying with what he does? You know what I'm saying? He's deceptive.
He's saying that everybody was involved, though. Everybody. That it was a caper involving everybody, including Nixon and people in Canada. You got a lot of people involved there. And it was a part of a long plan to do certain things, but in the end, it was basically to stop the friggin' Vietnam War, and but that was dragging on for how many years? That's what.
All right, let me finish with this P, because I think we will have time to do some of that discussion afterwards. So basically, the solver of this particular letter P says cutouts from a pipe ad. The hijacker smoked Raleigh cigarettes, not reported by the media before the postmark on this letter. So now again, this is more information that wasn't available to the public, and he is actually putting it out there for people to see. He knows what happened. He was part of it. It says if you don't smoke cigarettes, you probably smoke a pipe. And I don't really know how he relates that information from one to the next or the other, because we already had references to a cigarette. So why make another reference to a cigarette? I think there's more in this particular cutout than what we're finding. And that's simply because we can't read this article. So I have a feeling that it references something more than cigarettes. I would love to have known what brand cigarettes Jack smoked. I don't know why I never asked Dennis that. The P has been altered on purpose to look different than it was. And we know that there are a lot of P references in the communications that Terry has pointed out to us.
Well, it seems to me, Nanette, that they claim that the cigarettes left behind, which have gone missing on the Cooper Caper, were Raleigh cigarettes.
Right. Yes, we do know what was on the caper, but I didn't know what brand Jack smoked in specifics.
To confirm that, I see. Yeah. Okay.
Right. All right, so that brings us to the next letter that was actually submitted, and I don't know that I have a version of this one either. So it basically says letter number 4. This was the last letter and sent again to the Reno Evening Gazette. It was not published, but the newspaper did make mention of it in their Friday, December 3rd, 1971 edition. It was cut and paste. It said, "Plan ahead for retirement income, DB Cooper." The whereabouts of this letter are unknown, but I've heard the FBI took possession of it. The analysis of all the letters, DB Cooper got away unscathed on the night of Wednesday, November 24th, 1971, and proceeded down to California. See, now, wait a minute here. November 24th, I thought this took place on November 21st. No? I might have my dates mixed up. And he proceeded down to California while his pursuers were looking for him about 35 miles to the north of his actual parachute landing zone. He sent the first letter to let the world know that he was alive. Next, he traveled to Canada with the money and wrote again. I think he took the bus. He left Canada by bus and cruised back down to Portland to wave at the FBI, who was looking for him 35 miles to the north of Portland. He mailed number 3 from the Portland area to further confuse law enforcement. At this point, he's having too much fun. Then he went back down towards Sacramento, California, and sent the final letter. Now, that's where everything ended for me. I thought there was only ever 4 letters that had been sent, letting everyone know that he was now set for retirement. Gossett would now, and then he wants to talk about his suspect, but I'm not really interested in that so much because I believe that person has been ruled out. But it says Gazette receives hijacker letter. The Reno Evening Gazette received another letter Thursday with pasted up newspaper clippings, which read, "Plan ahead for retirement income, DB Cooper." The letter was mailed Wednesday and postmarked U.S. Postal Service, California 956. A spokesman for the post office said this means the letter was canceled in Sacramento, but could have been mailed at any one of 50 or 60 post offices. So just like I had been explaining earlier that the zip code that I found at the top, or the partial zip code, is basically a mailing stop. So I could mail something out of here in Sacramento and it would go to Oakland, which is where the mail stop is, before it is stamped and then mailed onward to wherever it needs to go. So it's literally picked up from these different locations, shuffled to Oakland. So just because it's postmarked Sacramento doesn't mean that he was literally in Sacramento, but within that vicinity or area.
Makes sense.
It says that the letter was given to the Federal Bureau of Investigation. DB Cooper was the name used by a man who parachuted from a hijacked airplane and escaped with $200,000. He was first discovered missing when the plane landed in Reno from Seattle, November 24th. How was he first discovered missing if they already had all of these clues that he had jumped at a much earlier time?
Well, I'm going to interject the word supposedly with Harriet Sands, so that I'm covering my tail. But supposedly, he ordered them not to look back or go back in the aft portion of the. In other words, stay the hell out of my main compartment. He told them that specifically, and not to be looking around the corner peeking at him. So that would have kept them up front. So that's why they wouldn't have gone to the back. He said, he got pretty tough there with it. I think he told them. Bruce Smith has a lot of great information on this too, but apparently he told them that, look, or I'll set the thing off. If you don't either follow my instructions, or I'll set the bomb off. So, if it's legitimate and they were actually scared, that's what. So I'm working is sometimes
unless they were involved, unless they were involved, and all the information given was to make us think that he jumped in another location. You got to remember, at this point in time, Jack is in South Lake Tahoe, so he is near.
Yeah.
If he's jumping closer to the South Lake Tahoe area, say Reno, and he's close to home when he does that.
The problem I have with all of that you're talking about with that supposedly, and the tangent we're going off into is that it's hard to believe that many people could keep a secret like that. That's,
of course.
so.
I don't think, well, and that's why some have changed, some are dead. You talked about the one guy
That's
being
what I'm
bludgeoned
saying.
over the parachutes. Yeah, so this first letter to the hold on, Harriet, I want to finish this article so we can move on from this. The first letter to the Gazette was received Monday and read, "Attention, thanks for hospitality, was in a rut, D.B. Cooper." It was postmarked Oakdale, California, which would explain the Modesto B cutouts that were used. A small town about 15 miles northeast of Modesto, California, which is where we know this the area where Kathleen Johns was abducted. After a photograph of the first letter to the Gazette was published, Bill Kane, a reporter for the Modesto Bee, said he had identified 4 of the 8 words as definitely from his paper's final Friday edition. Other newspapers have reported receiving letters from D.B. Cooper. In British Columbia, the Vancouver province received a notice which said a composite drawing of the hijacker's face circulated throughout the United States and Canada does not represent the truth. The letter to the province was handwritten in ink and postmarked Vancouver. "I enjoyed the Grey Cup game." The letter said, "I'm leaving Vancouver. Thanks for your hospitality." In Oregon, the Portland Oregonian received a letter which said, "Am alive and doing well in hometown PO, the system that beats the system, D.B. Cooper." And an enterprising Portland novelty store has started selling T-shirts. That's great. D.B. Cooper, where are you? Either way, my guess is that no one is responding to Zodiac Jack and his request for more work. Also, his plan to retire on the job versus being snuffed out as dispensable. My guess is also that this job is an anniversary reminder of what this rogue asset knows, and he won't be dispensed by anybody. So there's a good chance that, like Harriet has solved in many of these solves, that he has been calling out for his pay for the jobs he's done. He's not getting that. He becomes disgruntled and possibly pulls off this crime in order to obtain retirement money. How do you feel about that?
Oh, for me? Okay.
Yes.
Number one, I've always wondered very quickly, how come there's like 38, 40 people on board this plane, and you only really have one person named Mitchell that's come forward saying, "I was on the plane," and and for 20 years, Tina Mucklow was not talking. So what happened to the other people? How come they've never been interviewed? I mean, there's supposed to be 38 people.
That's so, and then take them all off, but.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering. Did something happen to them? Did they end up, in some weird accident? And they're in the hospital for 40 years. I mean,
that's a lot of people, though.
Well,
that's a lot of people to go missing.
The problem with the plane, they didn't let on to any of the passengers that there was a bomb scare or anything. They just ushered them off because they said they were having technical trouble and put them on a different, supposedly, I'll say, put them on another plane.
But where are they? What happened to them? Is it Tom Blake's parents?
You would still interview them. You would still interview them, even if once they were let off the plane. You'd think that would be your first protocol.
They wouldn't have much to say. They would say, "Oh, we didn't notice anybody."
What is NDAs? NDAs by the airline, non-disclosure. I don't know. NDAs. You're gonna have to be a little more descriptive, please.
Well, if I was on board that plane and I found out 45 minutes later that it was hijacked, I'd be the first person calling the news. I was on that
non-disclosure. Plane, Okay, so I just got hit up in the chat about non-disclosure agreements.
Could be.
Oh, please, come on.
Well, maybe they were. Maybe they were meant.
Yeah.
Maybe they were meant to sign them. Possibly. Well, that brings us to our solve on the plan for retirement envelope, which you have completed. Do you have that in front of you, or would you like me to read that? And you can. Okay. So it says, Ron. Oh, you do? Okay, perfect. Go for it.
Yeah, this was early on, but this was so easy to anagram because I was looking into all the military acronyms by then. So it says, plan ahead for retirement income, D.B. Cooper. It just anagrams out to Dean, LFA, OO, 3P, contains CEO, Premier Bedroom. And it just comes out, the acronyms, John Dean, low flying, that's LFA, that's a military term, low flying area, drone op-ord, the operation order. 3 photos contain Chief Executive Officer Premier Zhou Enlai's bedroom. So That was,
Oh, I had the
they
wrong
were
one up. I had
moving
that
the,
backwards. Okay.
yeah, okay. Well, and he was referred to, Zhou Enlai, the premier, was referred to the chief executive officer also. He was not only the president of the entire communist country, he was also the president of the businesses of the country. So this was, I had to make sure I had that right. And that's what he was referred to, chief executive officer premier. That was Zhou Enlai. So,
and who is John Dean?
John Dean, the White House, Watergate, the guy who ended up going down, going down for Nixon.
Attorney for
Nixon. Wasn't Hillary Clinton also at that point in time an attorney?
No, she was too young.
No, she was a young attorney. I read. I don't know if she was acting in a paralegal status, but
yeah, maybe so.
She was a very young attorney at the time of Watergate, and she has somehow been. And like I said, she went from being Republican to being Democrat after this whole mess.
Yeah, she said, "Screw that."
I wouldn't believe anything she says, but.
No, I don't. I'm just reading things about her business back in those days. And there was some connection between her and Watergate. She was a young attorney at the time.
Yeah, you're right about that. But John Dean was a center of focus because he was one of the guys that went to Nixon and said, there's a cancer on your presidency, blah, blah, blah. Up to that point, Nixon and company as associates were just continuing to not tell the truth about the Watergate break-in and the plumbers and all that sort of stuff. And John Dean saying, basically was telling Nixon, I can't go along with this. And
all right. So let me get to this next solve. So you also have a solve on the letter itself, right?
I believe so. Where is it? The letter itself. Yep.
Ron Ziegler.
Yeah, that was like, okay. I had to make sure. Why would it say Ziegler? Because I had a Z, and I said it's not saying Zodiac, and I said Ron Ziegler's the press secretary guy.
Right.
So, okay.
So go ahead and read that solve.
Okay, it just comes out as I'm just going to read the whole solve as it, with the anagrams and everything. Okay, it says, Ron Ziegler, stewardess bin 588, Northwest Orient J Tarrance in seat E18, 119, 903 D 401st, CE Micro Pictures, LFA, that's the low flying, same thing, 1967. Yeah, 1967 USA Pentagon data sent in Canada envelope under the stamp, now in Dwight David Eisenhower coin, Jack's coin, at Nevada Diner Register, and then that means it was in the till. They moved all this and put it in this till in the Nevada Diner, which was owned by Fisk Harris. So. Anyways, he's just saying a lot is going on, and he's getting the message across to Ron Ziegler, the press secretary, and the 588 is, it means that something's wrong with the stewardess, and they're finding out that the stewardess is actually a guy. Anyways, military, Dean 588 in the military. So it gets very interesting. As I was going along, I said, what the hell is 588?
And I wonder if there's any way to confirm his seat number.
Oh, it is. If you keep digging, it was E18. Yeah, seat E18 he was in.
Really?
Yeah.
And what does the 119 and the 903D mean?
That is 401st. It's the 119 microfilms. It's a whole bunch of micro pictures that are also being sent, included with the CEO premier bedroom pictures. Very compromising pictures of what they found in his scene, what he was doing. So we'll just stop there.
And at the end of that, you said Dean LFA 00 even contained 3P CEO premier bedroom. So that's what you get with the Zhu guy, right?
Yeah, he's saying they're combining everything. Then they're now going. What was underneath the stamp is now the Canadian snowflake stamp. All this stuff was sent under that microfilm. And if you see pictures of microfilm, you can see it. It will fit in a silver dollar that was used. The Eisenhower dollars were used as tokens, same kind of metal for the gambling up there in the Reno area.
Gotcha.
So,
well, that brings us to our next letter that came out December 3rd, 1971. And I do find it rather interesting that each of these letters seem to be kind of a Zodiac 101, where more than one is sent at one time. And we're going to actually see a couple. This one actually had some very interesting takes for me because it says he's right here in Portland, but the stamp on it is from San Francisco. So it's a historic preservation stamp from the trolley cars in San Francisco, which would indicate that the person is likely familiar with California or in California, or maybe even a resident of California versus the resident of Portland, as they would like us to believe. And it says, letter may hold clue. Authorities call off hunt for skyjacker. And his letter says, I am right here in Portland, and the 200,000 is for Revolution, D.B. Cooper. Now, if everybody has been following us so far, we've seen block letter writing throughout the progression of these communications from 1947's on. Revolution hits back home for me for Bauerdorf, which was a retribution, and Black Dahlia, which is justified. So we're using the same type of linguistic taunts. Go ahead, Terry.
Well, I'm looking at that line where it says the plaintext is claiming is for Revolution, but that to me looks like I-5, and I-5 is the freeway running all the way from the area in question right down to California, and the Revolution would be his wheels revolving as he goes down I-5. So he's having his little game again with his semantics that he played with an I-5 hint, and he liked to do that with that letter S, and he's done that in other places where he makes that S look like a 5, which might have been a part of his reason for using block form. The whole thing looks cryptic, of course.
Right.
Yeah, that's interesting stamp. I like that.
Yeah, so in this stamp, what do we have to the left here? It looks to me like a version of D.B. Cooper. We have a suitcase or a briefcase. We have the dark glasses.
Right.
We have to the right, we have a sailor in his Navy suit. And then we have this other guy that looks kind of just creepy. His eyes are actually kind of fashioned after, it reminds me of when we look at the Halloween card and the way the eyeballs were in the Halloween card.
So was that an artifact of that original postage stamp, or is it something he added as an artifact?
No, it looks like it's hatch cut, just like it would have been done. As far as the drawing is concerned, it's very similar. I don't see any differences in the patternization of it versus where the sailor's standing or what's going on with the guy onto the left there. But it is definitely a San Francisco cable car. It is a historic preservation stamp. And so he's pointing directly back to San Francisco in my mind. And we know what happened in San Francisco and how San Francisco has held and maintained the entire case against the Zodiac Killer, even though they only purportedly claim one murder, and all the rest were in different locations.
It's interesting you came across this one. I got that solved right before me. This letter to the Oregonian is a blackmailing of the railroad operator, which is Bill Hilliard.
Well, we haven't gotten there yet. We haven't gotten to that solve yet. I'm saying, but your solve is coming. Your solve is coming up, is what I'm saying. So we've not gotten to that yet.
That's a cable car, of course.
Right. And so I did some block letter comparisons to see how it folds out for this particular communication, and we can see the definite consistencies with the way these actual letters are written and what he's put together here versus what we've seen in other block letter forms that have been used in other crimes, such as at the top is the Zodiac, the middle is Lipstick Killer, and then we have Black Dahlia, and so on and so forth. He's used it several times.
Oh, yeah.
So now that brings us to Harriet Souger's solve of the D.B. Cooper Revolution block letter writings on December 3rd of 1971. And this is the Oregonian letter anagram. Go ahead, Harriet.
Let's go for it. It's I am right here for the, I found it easier to solve it if I used block letters, and then I cleaned it up and I did it in my solve stuff. It basically comes out as an anagram that links with the envelope message. 1940s railroad operator is Bill Hilliard, but anyways, it's saying railroad operator which is Bill Hilliard, deposit the $200,000 and the three George Bush micro photos at Fisk Hara Diner till in the Reno, Nevada area. So I think that was the money was paying for all these microfilms, and they're moving the microfilm, and they're moving it through Reno, Nevada.
So that it wasn't necessarily for his retirement, as he's declaring. No. It definitely just went right back to the mob, basically.
I'm laughing because it was basically, so all these people that had a past 20 years earlier, this was for them to live so they can live in the future, to just live.
That is not a lot of money. I mean, huh.
No. So
no.
And then the letter itself, I mean, it just is saying railroad operator. It says 17. Remember World War II, Francis Brown. This is where he's blackmailing them. World War II, Francis Brown, 33, Ross, S. Degnan, Pictures, Chicago, UCGH, the zip code 90027. And then I'll just go forward where it's saying that there was a C-section operated done on Elizabeth Short, at the Blackfeet Reservation, because he was apparently part Native American, and George Hodel was doing surgeries on people. Anyways, in Missoula County, Montana, and then it's saying 1971 spy operation, Reno, Nevada. American Dan Cooper, Tarrance was, I mean, he's blackmailing them. You have to join us. You're in this. And remember what you did, what you were involved with, during the Black Dahlia era. And so that's what they're doing. He's blackmailing them to join this operation. That you have to do this or they're going to expose him.
So you're saying Operation 89502 indicates Reno, Nevada zip code. America, Dan Cooper, Jack Tarrance was 17 in 1945, U.S. Navy. 1946 when Degnan was killed.
Yeah.
Is that part of the message, or is that just an inclusion that he made?
He's saying that that when Bill Hilliard was involved with Frances Brown when she was 33, Ross and Susan Degnan Pictures, because he was taking the pictures, hoping to get more further into the newspaper field, and then Chicago, and then the UC, the General Hospital. He's saying that the Navajo doctor performed the late ES, it's Elizabeth Short, C-section, Blackfeet Reservation, northeast of Missoula, Montana County. And then he's just saying the 1971 spy op 89502, America, DC. He's saying you have to join this. You're a part of this.
Who is?
That's why he's going.
Who's he saying they have to join? Oh,
no, this is Nick. He's relaying the message because Nixon was a part of all the Black Dahlia mess then. So now he's the president, and he's relaying these messages, and he's saying you are a part of the past. Now you have to be a part of the present, and he's now the Oregonian editor.
That's what I was going to get to. So is this mailed to the Oregonian? He's definitely calling this letter or message to the railroad operator, which if nobody knew the history, they wouldn't know that Bill Hilliard was the railroad operator during the JFK mess. And now that he is the editor, like you're saying, of the Oregonian, to be able to put that stuff together.
Yeah. So it's like join up with us or else, and, pay off your debt from the past with Nixon. I mean, it's so much going on here. Okay,
so on to the next one. We have the B.D. Cooper letter, which was given to me by Terry Batcher, and that kind of points back to Black Dahlia. Just once again, what you were just stating, Harriet, in regards to the last message being connected to Elizabeth Short, we now have a letter that is specifically saying B.D. Cooper rather than D.B. Cooper. So this one here says, here, you share the money. You aren't fool. B.D. Cooper. So you have a solve for that one as well, correct?
Yeah, I do, but I think you're going to have to read that one because I think that's actually in it's a better version that's in the Jack Tarrance Jack Tarrance book. And
I'm not sure where this one is mailed. I'm not sure where this one is mailed to or from, because the information on the envelope is not quite clear. Maybe this is the backside of the amnesty one. I'm not sure. Either way, you had come up with you record DVD of Dr. Hodel and Ray Elizabeth.
I have it. Yeah, I have it. Here it is. Duh. Okay. It's in my first page. Yeah. So yeah, this was early on, and I was learning.
Oh, I'm
as I
sorry.
went
That
along.
says
All these
duo.
Yeah,
You record
you're
duo.
part of the duo.
Gotcha.
Yeah, you record the duo of who had to do with butchering somebody. So this is another blackmailing of the Bill Hilliard. Hello, remember us? Join us. And I have another one that says, you will join us. It's not funny. I mean, I'm laughing at how he's presenting this, but I guess Bill Hilliard was saying, F you, I'm not going to be involved. And they were like doing this blackmailing. You are involved. Help us move this money. Help us move this microfilm. Wow.
Well, that I don't want to move on to the next letter because, of course, we are not quite prepared for it. And I also wanted to be able to do some handwriting examinations on it because while I felt that there could be some differences, and even though the overall gestalt of this appears as though it would be something that the Zodiac sent, when I pulled up the words "my name is," I found a very interesting or coincidental gapping and spacing of the "my name is," as you can see right up here in this right hand corner. And that made me wonder, is this by the Zodiac? Because that spacing is pretty blatant and pretty similar. And spacing is one of those things that definitely differs between one author and the next. So it does make me want to actually dive in and do an examination on this because I received all of these letters just as I was doing the handwriting exams that we finished off months ago. So this was not included in it, but I think I'm going to take the time to go ahead and break this apart and see if we can make any identification on this handwriting as well. Either way, that gives us only about 2 minutes left. So if there's anything, Terry B, you would like to talk about, I would welcome that.
Well, you caught my interest with the last thing you were showing there that looked like, there was a letter 7 implied in that. So structurally, that's about as cryptic. If it's not in Jack's hand, it's awfully structurally cryptic anyway.
Correct. That's why I said the spacing was just very, very coincidentally on. And I'm looking forward to doing that examination. And I think we just have a few letters that are left from this, and then we'll start getting into some of the things that you've sent me about the information you've learned in this case.
Sure.
Harriet, do you have anything to add?
Terry B's aspects. Well, that's what I wanted to say. I love Terry B joining us during this massive time period because his aspects are a part of the puzzle pieces that are forming. I mean, I do my share of the puzzle pieces, but he's got his share of the points. So thank you, Terry B.
Well, thank you too. And
what you got?
Like I said, mine's like an Easter egg hunt. I just go around picking up the Easter eggs. You guys are laying them down, chronologically. And then I'm finding out that Jack laid these Easter eggs all over hell and back.
Yes, he did.
So that's really what I'm doing. I'm going, oh, well, look at this. This fits over here and that there, and so that's what he intended. I mean, when we look at did it repeatedly,
And we look at the handwritten Cooper and have to wonder why, unless the backwards P and R has some significance, why he would President Reagan? No. Is President Reagan in play yet? No. I look at that P and that R, and why did he have to handwrite Cooper when he clearly could find cutouts, I'm sure, of those letters all day long if he wanted to make that a complete cutout letter, but he chose to handwrite Cooper. It has that elongated back stem of the P that you've been talking about, Terry, and then we have the transposition or the turning backwards of the letters that he's used in many of his codes and his solves, almost as if there's a code here, and that's how that's what basically Harriet has come up with the you record duo of Dr. Hodel and Ray Elizabeth's short operation.
Said on this stuff, and then I mean, like the two O's real close to each other, like a pair of glasses, and it's like he's saying many things in one statement,
Right. Well, that pretty much brings us to the end, you guys. I thank you for being here. I hope everybody has a wonderful weekend, and we will see you next Friday. Take care.
Okay. Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay.